Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Nathan Judd joining you for this edition of Nate at 8 on this Friday evening. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to be tracking, well, a lot of the same as what we saw for today for the weekend, just a very humid stretch of weather. It's a hot one again for tomorrow, but much like today, mostly dry. The story will then begin to change more so into Sunday. And that's some of what we're going to be talking about for this edition of Nate at 8. Again, just hot and humid, unbearably humid conditions. Mostly dry for tomorrow, much like today. Then it will be turning not a real wet day, but certainly more wet with respect to today and tomorrow, as we're going to be tracking more showers and thunderstorms. Yes, severe thunderstorms, flooding, both possible. Both look to remain more isolated. Not that we're tracking a widespread severe event or flooding event. Both would likely stay more isolated, but both are possible. Yes, Saturday as well as Sunday. I know not coming to fruition yesterday, today across the area, but nonetheless, we still have to just monitor anything that develops into these afternoon and evening hours again on Saturday, that there is a possibility, it's not a great chance, but there is a possibility that thunderstorm that if it happens to develop can mature to the extent where it can start to produce some high winds. That's our severe threat. And the potential for high winds, again, is a primary concern for any severe thunderstorms on Sunday. And yes, the flooding potential is there. Torrential downpours within thunderstorms. So we'll have to watch. Well, again, much more isolated on Saturday. It still remains more localized, but, with respect to Saturday, just a little higher potential to deal with impacts on Sunday, just due to the fact that coverage of thunderstorms will likely be greater as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's jump into things, shall we? And starting off with the temperatures, well, we felt it. It's still warm and muggy, but it certainly was a hot and humid afternoon, highs nearing 90 degrees. Look at our friend on the tower cam in Wheeling. Ugh. A friend a lot of us don't want to see, but it's hanging out there. I'm glad it's blurred because a lot of us don't like to see that. So, it's moving. Don't look. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe it's actually hanging out. Maybe there's a nest right beside the tower, the camera there in Wheeling. But, yeah, we've got a not-so-pleasant friend behind our comfort index. And that's the face that a lot of us made today. Just, yeah. Right in the range of just uncomfortably humid. And unfortunately, at times, we can deal in that angry face where it's just unbearably humid. And that's the range we're likely going to stay in throughout this weekend, uncomfortable to unbearably humid. And that's where we're staying not only this week, but really for a lot of the next week. We have to wait right around a full week. The next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, before I think we can finally start to see some relief from that humidity. So our current heat index still feeling well into the 80s at this hour, despite temperatures falling a little further into the 80s. Clouds and radar tracking now, some dry conditions likely setting up. The potential was there for a stray shower into this evening, but it doesn't look like it's going to persist. It looks like we're just tapering off altogether. And now we're going to be tracking some dry conditions into tomorrow morning. Maybe some patchy fog. I don't think it's real prevalent, but maybe some spots of fog going into Saturday morning. And outside of that, just another warm, muggy, quiet start to the day tomorrow. And again, much like today, a lot of similarities, I think, going into Saturday, where we spot a good amount of sunshine, warm, muggy start, and then notice our temperatures topping off near 90. It's humid with hot temperatures, very similar to today, likely. Again, it is Saturday afternoon. And yes, can have, just like what Futurecast is showing, that stray shower and thunderstorm. And again, a lot of us stayed dry today. A lot of us are likely going to stay dry tomorrow, but it can't be entirely ruled out that we're dealing with a shower and thunderstorm. It's just very hit or miss in the latter part of Saturday. Now, I do think we can see that potential for a shower and thunderstorm now carry over Saturday night into Sunday morning. And just like what Futurecast is showing, it's going to be hard to pinpoint exactly where we could spot that shower. That's a limitation still to modern day forecasting, modern day models, right? But it is trying to depict a stray shower here going into Sunday morning. So that potential's there. Will it occur just north of Morgantown? Maybe. I mean, maybe, but it's really just a luck of the draw if the model is going to depict exactly where it happens. Could very well happen over New Philly. Maybe it happens over Cambridge, maybe over Wheeling. We could still spot that more stray shower going into Sunday morning before the coverage will then further pick up, and we'll deal with more scattered showers and thunderstorms likely as the day does progress, continuing going into Sunday night. And then into Monday morning, it's a drying trend with a decrease in cloud cover as we go throughout Monday. There's still some question on how long that rain will last. Maybe it does last like what the Futurecast is showing through the Monday morning commute, but I think there's a good odds that it's out of the area by then and will be dry on Monday. So there's still a little uncertainty in the timing of how long the rain sticks around Monday. Maybe we have some rain to contend with there at the beginning of the day in the morning commute, and then it starts to move out in the early afternoon, and then we're drying up with some sun breaking out by the end of the day on Monday. That's a possibility. As it stands now, though, I think that a lot of this rain moves out even in time for Monday morning's commute. Then a decrease in cloud cover throughout the day, but again, not a decrease in humidity, and it's still going to be very warm on Monday. So we'll notice a little more sunshine breaking out going later into the day on Monday with some drying conditions, but likely not going to be spotting a decrease in anything else. The humidity still unbearable, and those temperatures still around the mid 80s. So not too much cooler likely with respect to what we're going to get on Sunday. Now, we'll technically be a little cooler likely Sunday and Monday with respect to what we get on Saturday. High temperatures likely near 90, and the additional cloud cover Sunday, the additional precipitation, that can start to trend us a little bit cooler going into towards the mid 80s going into Sunday and into Monday. But again, it's a little cooler, but the humidity, it's still just unbearably humid Sunday and into Monday. And when you factor in the heat and humidity, of course, feeling even warmer, string of mild, muggy nights tonight, low near 70. Tomorrow night, lows in the lower 70s. Just no relief from that heat and humidity, even at night. Tonight, same story again. Tomorrow night, same story. Just a really warm, muggy couple of nights ahead. Austin, good evening. Today was miserable. Yes, I agree. Went for a walk this morning around 9. I could feel the heat. I was surprised to feel the summer heat very early into the morning. And yes, that's what we're talking about. These warm, muggy nights. How there's just no relief, right? So when you deal with lows in the 70s, near 70 for tomorrow morning, lower 70s Sunday morning, that's likely the same story, Austin, that there's not much relief. That is warm for an overnight low to still remain in the 70s. So it is a situation where you're getting up in the morning and it's not cool, right? It's still just warm and muggy. There's just not too much relief, unfortunately, from that heat and humidity, even overnight. That's going to be the case as we go throughout this weekend as well. And will it be sunny on Saturday? I do think we're quite a bit of sunshine on Saturday. We can still have some clouds in the mix, but yes, I think there's quite a bit of sunshine to be had Saturday before we spot more clouds building back on Sunday. So yes, I think quite a bit of sunshine. I don't think it's completely blue skies and sun. I think there will be some clouds, but yes, I do think there's quite a bit of sunshine present as we go throughout on Saturday. Kyle, why can't you get thunderstorms and less moisture, humidity in the air? We need one more factor, Kyle. We need more lift. So we need something to get these showers and thunderstorms going. So once they get going, right, there's a lot of fuel for these showers and thunderstorms to be sustained, certainly. And we're going to get that with the system approaching us on Sunday. That system is going to help provide the lift. And then we've got the heat and the moisture to fuel those showers and thunderstorms. So we'll definitely see that later into the day, Sunday night. But up until that point, we can't see something more stray develop with this heat and humidity, but without that lack of a real driving force to help get these thunderstorms going, right? To help, initialize more of these showers and thunderstorms. What we do see is much more stray. We can see with these warm updrafts developing in this time of the year with, these hot, humid conditions. Yes, we can see something more stray develop into the afternoon hours and evening, just like what we saw for today, yesterday, and what we're likely going to see for tomorrow. But in terms of seeing a further increase in coverage of showers and thunderstorms, we need more of a driving force to help really initiate more activity. And we'll get that with that system moving into Sunday, later Sunday into Sunday night. And then again, likely next week around Thursday, we'll see another system. So it's a series of these low pressure system. We'll notice that with the series of systems, it'll help then further initiate more showers and thunderstorms, and then we will see that increase in coverage. And then, yes, once we see that system help initiate more activity, I mean, there's plenty of fuel to keep it going, certainly. What is the current dew point? We'll get to that, Christopher. We'll jump back and I'll show you that dew point. When can we expect cooler weather to return? And unfortunately, Austin, there's just not much. There's just not much drop in temperatures here near term. The coolest days likely lower 80s. That's it. Nothing for the foreseeable future, Austin. Looking ahead, going through the middle of this month, the coolest days probably lower 80s. Maybe we can hold around 80, but still, it's a little lower humidity at that point, and this would be for the following weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. And a little bit cooler, a little lower humidity, but it's not comfortable. It's not cool and comfortable. I just don't foresee that, unfortunately, any point soon. We're gonna have to wait, maybe towards the end of this month, but here near term, just nothing through the middle of this month. Over the next couple of weeks, likely nothing of that sort arriving, where it's much more cooler and comfortable. Unfortunately, I wish I had different news, but unfortunately, will tomorrow's weather be favorable for bike riding? Jeffrey's asking, and yeah, I think so. It's hot and humid. Just keep an eye on the weather. I can't quite entirely roll out that shower thunderstorm. If you have the Severe Weather T9 mobile app, keep an eye on that radar wherever you're riding to from, right? And just make sure you're not going to be riding into any stray showers that are developing wherever you're heading or going. But yeah, I think overall it's still a good day in general for outdoor activities. It's just one of those situations where, unfortunately, just got to, keep an eye on the sky, watch for changing weather conditions, and you keep an eye on the radar. And if you have the Severe Weather T9 mobile app, it actually gives you a heads up when rain's heading your way as well. And it'll let you know if lightning's detected near a location. Can be a handy tool in that regard. But of course, even just checking the radar and mostly dry, right? But unfortunately, just can't be ruled out to deal with that shower and thunderstorm. But most of us likely stay dry going into the latter part of Saturday. A couple more questions. What's precipitation chance on Sunday? Pretty good odds. Still scattered, but I think most of us will pick up at least a round of rain there into the second half of Sunday with those showers and thunderstorms. Patty saying good evening from Pigeon Forge. Good evening there, Patty. Thanks for tuning in. Has it snowed in the middle of July? And Christopher, no, this time of the year, into the very beginning of June, it's still possible with the temperatures cold enough, but it starts to become more of an impossible task this time of the year, Christopher. Hello there, Sean from Yorksville. How many inches of rain on Sunday for Tuscarawas County? And it's hard to tell, with this pattern in place. Unfortunately, it's hard to, which is why we really don't dive into rainfall forecasts this time of the year, because what likely is going to occur on Sunday is still with precipitation scattered. You can have locations that see thunderstorms. You can have locations pick upwards of 1-2 inches, maybe even more of rain. And, you'll drive, just 15-20 minutes away from that location, and you can pick up a quarter of an inch or maybe a trace. It just varies so much, and it's an impossible task to pinpoint exactly where these thunderstorms will develop. That, unfortunately, if forecasts would be something that's really not helpful, because the forecast could be anything from a trace up to 2 more inches of rain, and that's not much of a forecast, but it's going to be more scattered in nature. So again, that's why you really don't dive into rainfall forecasts this time of the year, because it just varies so much location to location. And again, there's still a limitation with modern day forecasting and models, that when you have these summer thunderstorms that are more hit or miss in nature, that it's just an impossible task to try to say, okay, this location will see a thunderstorm develop and this location won't. Unfortunately, it's just impossible to say that. But yes, it probably will vary quite a bit across the area, just depending on where we see those thunderstorms develop. Again, I think most of us do get some rain on Sunday, but it can be the difference between a thunderstorm and a shower, and that can vary those precipitation amounts quite drastically, as we're dealing with some torrential downpours within thunderstorms. Any thunderstorms that develop for both Saturday as well as Sunday, just some very heavy downpours within those thunderstorms. Jeffrey says, I have the app, also have WeatherWise. WeatherWise radar also shows weather alerts and where they are heading. Very good, Jeffrey. Yeah, just keep those tools handy, and you'll be good to go. A good day to ride. Yes, just definitely just keep those tools handy, and just keep in mind, right, that you may run into that shower thunderstorm. It is possible. So just certainly a good day to do, for outdoor activities. Just have to keep in mind a potential for shower thunderstorm. Has it been near 120 degrees with the heat index? I'm sure it has. Yes. I don't know when, but I'm sure it's been close to that. Yes. We've had some days with highs well in the 90s, even near 100. It's very rare to near 100 degrees here in the Ohio Valley, but it has happened. And you factor in the humidity with that, and yes, it's easier to start to feel that warm. I mean, that's a rare event, but I'm sure it has. But I don't know the day off the top of my head, Christopher, in terms of dealing with a near 120 degrees with the heat index. We're not going to be close to that this stretch, but it will still feel well into the 90s likely when you're factoring in the temperatures near 90 in addition to that humidity. So let's actually jump into that. We'll get off the forecast, and we're going to start to talk a bit about the humidity and the temperatures and just how hot it will feel with that heat index. And you could see the range there. You notice it just is not dropping at all. So this is really the one consistent factor in the forecast. Rain chances vary, cloud cover varies, temperatures vary a little bit, but look just what does. This does not vary at all. It's just uncomfortably to unbearably humid as we go throughout this stretch, all the way through the middle of next week. And if we were to extend this out even further, I think it goes all the way into Friday of next week. But there is that potential then into that weekend, into Saturday, that we can finally get back at least into this range. At least into this range where it's more tolerable, the lower 60s, near 60, at least into this range. If we're lucky, maybe we can get back to pleasant, but more than likely we'll at least get back to this point where it's more tolerable. But as you can see, we're nowhere into that range here near term over the next likely week. But from about a week from now, at least I think we can see some relief from that humidity. This has just been, it's not really the temperatures. They haven't been really excessive. I know we've had some hot days. It was hot to really today. It's going to be hot tomorrow, but with these highs nearing 90, but these temperatures really aren't too excessive. We're not dealing with record highs during a lot of this, but this humidity is certainly noteworthy. This is an excessive stretch of humidity. It was already excessive at the end of June, historically humid stretch in the end of June, and now it's just continuing July. And what has been evidence of this, these overnight lows, we've been 60 plus since June 21st. We're not looking back here over the next week. We may get closer to 60 when we see that little lowering of the humidity for next weekend. But even then, forecasted to actually stay above 60 degrees for a low. So it's interesting to note we are at 3 weeks straight right now with lows even 63 plus, 60 plus, but even 63 plus. And that's the longest stretch that we've had here in the Ohio Valley, 63 plus for a low with 21 days straight, 3 weeks straight. That's the longest stretch that we've had in since 2011. I mean, a long time, right? It's been a long time since we've had this long of a stretch, just prolonged stretch of these mild and muggy nights. It's been a long, long time. And unfortunately, again, there's just no relief in sight from these more warm and mild, muggy nights. And, the stretch of 60 plus could very well reach, past 3, maybe 4 weeks. We could get to a month. And if that does happen, it would be the longest stretch we've had in almost 10 years of lows 60 plus to deal with it for almost a month, if not a month long. So yeah, certainly significant that we have, it's just been a while, right, since we've dealt with this prolonged of just mild, muggy nights. And often the case this time of the year, what is the limiting factor is those dew points. So, it's all this prolonged period of these more mild or warm, muggy nights it's often also hand in hand with dealing with some excessive humidity as well. So our high temperatures, again, will vary a little bit. It's going to be hot tomorrow. It's going to be hot likely again on Wednesday, a little bit cooler then, closer to the mid 80s. I think Sunday, Monday, more upper 80s Tuesday, but it's anywhere from a warm to hot, warm to hot. So when you factor in the temperatures and the humidity, here's how hot it will feel for the heat index. So well in the 90s Saturday, into the 90s on likely Sunday, even despite trending a little cooler, still likely feels like it's in the 90s Sunday. And again, still feels closer to 90 Monday, into the 90s Tuesday, and back well in the 90s Wednesday. So likely not feeling too far off from that 100-degree mark for both Saturday and Wednesday. Yes, just in general, warm to hot and humid stretch of weather here near term. And this will even carry over even as we extend later next week. And after Sunday into Sunday night, the next time period to watch for more showers and thunderstorms where, it's more than just that isolated pop-up shower and thunderstorm in the afternoon and evening. The following round of more organized showers and thunderstorms after Sunday night will likely be Thursday, maybe some lingering into Friday. So that Thursday into Friday, that's when to watch roughly around the time next week for more showers and thunderstorms. That will then, behind that system, we finally see at least a little lowering in the humidity. And again, you can do this time of the year, especially, you can see the humidity is lowering a little bit with those overnight lows. So up until that point, mid upper 60s, 70s, you see just how warm these nights are. But then notice next Saturday, that low is 63. It's good evidence that it's allowing, with the lower humidity, the temperatures to cool a little bit more. But again, lower 60s, but we're still forecasting 60 plus, right? So this stretch just likely continues. I mean, maybe it trends a little cooler by the time we get there. It was still far out going into the following weekend. Being a week out, the forecast can obviously change. Maybe it looks to tread a little cooler. Maybe we can sneak in the 50s, but as it stands now, just a string. And these mild, muggy nights, it's been a long time, a long period, right? It's been tough. This has been really humid weather, and it's just, unfortunately, I wish I could say it's lowering in a few days, but unfortunately, we got at least a week before we see at least some relief. And it's going to be that long. So I know, just have to hold on until we get into next weekend. At least then it's not quite as horrible for that humidity, at least for a couple of days. I think it can start to pick back up into the following week, but at least here near term. Charlene, good evening. From New Manchester, always have the WTOV9 app in case of severe weather. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Charlene. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate that. And yeah, WTOV9 app and Severe Weather Team 9 app, they're great tools to have. Yeah, like I said, if you put your location in that app, it can give you a heads up. I mean, it's not perfect, right? But it does a great job giving you a heads up when rain's heading your way, lightning detected near you. Very handy tool to have. And of course, it gives you the warnings for your location as well, right? So you immediately in the know. If you have a warning issued for your location, you'll immediately know that. And it's our smartphones is the greatest way to get those warnings to keep weather aware. When we're dealing with potential severe weather or flooding, that's a great way. Now, I know behind that, maybe some of us don't have really good cell reception where we live. If you can afford it, get a NOAA weather radio, have a weather radio. And maybe if you can't get cell phone reception, you could get that. And the NOAA weather radio, of course, just like any radio station, is going to issue that, warning that goes over the air, right? And it can give you that warning for your location, and it will go off. NOAA Weather Radio is a very handy tool to have to keep you updated as well with those warnings that could be issued for your location. So that is the second best way to get those, and obviously have one. Make sure it's either, if it's battery powered, if it's a plug-in, right, make sure it has a battery backup in case you were to lose power. But those are the two best ways to keep updated. And the other ways to get the warning, of course, social media, right? If you do have internet, you can get it through social media or on the internet, through TV. But the two best ways certainly would be the phone, and then behind that, a weather radio, the two best ways. Now, outdoor sirens, they're a handy tool, are the handy tool, but not all of us are in the range of an outdoor siren. We also have to take into consideration, if you typically can hear it when the weather's more quiet, maybe it's going out for a volunteer fire department, right? Maybe it's going out for a structure fire, and you could typically hear it on more of a quiet day. But you have to think, in the event of heavy rain or hail or high winds, it can muffle that sound out. You may not hear it at that point, may not. So it's just something else to take into consideration. It's really more of a tool to be used outdoors, less inside. Really not supposed to rely on it inside. Now, I understand if you live right next to it, you're likely going to hear it no matter what. But it's not the best thing to rely on every time. But certainly that smartphone, and then the weather radio, that's the two best options to get those warnings. And again, unfortunately, we can have that strong to severe thunderstorm Saturday, Sunday. into the afternoon and evening. Again, very hit or miss from what we see develop later Saturday, and then a greater coverage of those showers and thunderstorms the latter part of Sunday into Sunday night. Damaging winds would be the primary concern with any severe thunderstorms that we see develop throughout the course of the weekend. And with torrential downpours in place with these thunderstorms, we'll deal with that potential, unfortunately, for localized flooding, unfortunately. Diane, you do a great job, Nathan. Thanks. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate those kind words. Thank you for tuning in. Not liking the muggy meter, it can drop down to pleasant, refreshing anytime soon. I'm with you there, Austin. I'm looking forward to that. I think a lot of us are. Like I said, it's been a pretty brutal stretch here. Pretty brutal stretch here coming our way. When we're dealing with unfortunately just a prolonged stretch here of some more mild, warm, muggy nights and just humid afternoons. Fortunately, at least another week before we get at least some relief. But unfortunately, it's just a pretty brutal stretch since the June 21st on. That's how long it's been. And then we're about 3 weeks now. We're approaching what will likely be a month here. We'll likely be approaching a month here after this coming week of just a rough stretch of humid conditions. And yes, a month long likely at that point. What's the record for 90 degrees or high weather for July? We're probably not going to be anywhere near that record for July. We're not dealing with a whole lot of 90 plus degree days. And yes, we could sneak one in Saturday as well as Wednesday, but I don't think we're going to be breaking records for that. But yeah, I do think, again, I think this stretch is more excessive for the humidity, not so much for the temperatures. And it does make it harder when you're dealing with more of that humidity present in the atmosphere. It does actually make it harder for those temperatures to not only warm up in the afternoon, but actually cool down as well at night. And that can then keep more of those highs below 90 for a lot of that stretch. It does help keep those high temperatures lower, but of course it still just makes it feel even hotter, right? When we're dealing with the humid air. But yes, it actually can keep those afternoon highs a little bit cooler when you are dealing with more moisture present in the atmosphere. And then Elle is asking, will we be catching a break soon? So again, I think the break that we'll have at least some relief is still about a week away. That next weekend, next Saturday. So unfortunately, we still have to wait, I think, for about another week before we can finally at least see some relief from that humidity, at least some. Christopher saying it snowed in July 1816, a year with no summer. How interesting, Christopher. Thanks for that interesting tidbit. How interesting. In July of 1816, the year with no summer. Very cool, Christopher. Thanks for sharing that. When we getting a lot of rain, Ella's asking. And again, we'll see the most coverage of rain likely here near term later Sunday into Sunday night. And then it'll drop back off Monday and then Thursday. So those would be the 2 days I think to watch is, again, later to the day on Sunday, continuing into Sunday night, and then again around Thursday of next week. Those are the 2 days to watch where we can deal with scattered, maybe even numerous showers and thunderstorms. Those will likely be the greatest coverage of rain that we're going to have. Again, it's with it being scattered, the storms especially, it's an impossible task, unfortunately, to say how much rain a given location will have. It's going to be one of the situations likely later this weekend, as well as next Thursday, where you're going to have locations pick up a trace to a quarter of an inch. Other locations pick up 1 to 2 or maybe more inches of rain. And it's just going to vary drastically across the area, with that precipitation being more scattered in nature. So that's unfortunately the case. And again, that's why we don't really dive too much into rainfall forecasts this time of the year, is because it varies so much from location to location across the area and again, it's just an impossible task to try to pinpoint what precise locations are going to see those thunderstorms and which ones won't, unfortunately. Jeffrey says, I got my NOAA weather radio at Bel Air Kroger for $30. And thanks for chiming that in there, Jeffrey. So yes, a good handy tool to have if you don't. A NOAA weather radio, a lot of them do run on battery. And of course, make sure your batteries are good before that severe weather moves in. And yes, so make sure to turn it on. And of course, it'll alert you. And it's a really handy tool as well. And obviously, in the middle of the night, the thing will go off and wake you up in the event of a warning. And it's handy tool to have. Jeffrey also mentioning if you live in Belmont County, you can sign up for the Belmont County Code Red. It is free. Also good information there, Jeffrey. So there we go. Reach out to Belmont County. You can sign up for the Belmont County Code Red. Very cool. Thank you, Jeffrey, for mentioning that. Have you made any predictions on how many hurricanes this year in the Atlantic? I have not made a personal prediction there, Sean. No. Activity can start to pick up a little bit more later this month into early August. I haven't had a whole lot yet, but we can see a further uptick in activity. Of course, it'll peak later on, going into September, later on, late summer into early fall is when it starts to peak hurricane season, but we can start to see in general activity pick up a little bit more into early August, late this month and early August. We can start to see activity pick up, but it's it's been fairly quiet so far, right? Haven't had a lot of systems to track, but we can see that activity further pick up later this month into August, and then again the peak occurring going into September for the hurricane season. Ella says you do a great job. Thank you, Ella. I appreciate that. Thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Nate at 8. I appreciate it as always. Hopefully everyone is able to stay cool going throughout the weekend. Again, just keep an eye on the sky. Download the Severe Weather T9 mobile app. And give you a heads up if rain's heading over your location, or if lightning's detected near you. Not a bad weekend for outdoor plans, and any outdoor plans to stay cool, right? Maybe jump into the nearest lake or pool and cool off. Anything you can do to cool off in the heat. That's or as Bill Phillips always used to say, get out the garden hose. Anything you do to cool off, that's for sure, with this hot and humid weekend that we have coming our way. And again, by Sunday, better odds for those showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening, continuing into Sunday night, and then coverage will drop back off Monday to Tuesday, and then picking back up by Thursday of next week. I appreciate it as always. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Of course, the next edition of Nate at 8 coming up Monday evening. So until then, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see all of you on the next edition of Nate at 8.